Hi, I'm Spencer Thomas. Thank you for watching Learning Curve. Today I'm going to look at adding an external switch or an external volume pedal to the Line 6 Pod Express. This gives you a whole bunch of options of things you can do, and the more you expand, obviously, the more you can do. I'll try to keep this as short as possible and as informative as possible. So let's get started. Let's go over some of the buttons, some of the switches, some of the stuff that you can plug into the Pod Express and just kind of get your head around it. You have to spend a lot of time in global settings, which initially is a little intimidating, but it's pretty, they lay it out pretty clearly and it's not too tough to get around. You just have to, like everything else, you just need to be mindful, right? Okay, so let's start. You can put two different kinds of switches in the Pod Express. You can either do, so that's a TRS, it's got two rings, and it goes to a switch that has two buttons. So this is a TS, and it goes to a switch that has one button. And this particular switch is the wrong switch because it is not a temporary release. Sorry, that's also the plug for the volume pedal. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the volume pedal is a TRS. It does have two rings. This is it's an expression pedal that I'm using as a volume pedal. And it's just that motion. So one thing you keep in mind, especially if you're going to be switching in between the volume pedal and just the switch pedals, is that there is a slot in here. It's global slot 3, and it designates what's happening in that volume /T3 switch, okay? So what you need to do, so white is if you're using one of these foot switches, okay? And blue is if you're using the volume pedal, all right? So I'm gonna leave it at blue for now, and then I'll illustrate how that volume pedal works in a minute. So with each of these foot switches, whether you're using the single one or the double one, you can assign multiple things for that pedal to do. And to do that, you go into global settings, which you push Alt, and then you push on the amp select, and now you are in global settings. This is F3, which is A on this pedal, and this is F4, which is B on the Sonic Cake pedal, okay? F3 is A on the Sonic Cake pedal, F4 is B on the Sonic Cake pedal. And what you get from what each pedal will do is determined by the color. Right now it's on distortion. Okay, so white will give you the previous preset. Red will give you tap tempo, because you can move the tap tempo from here to the pedal. Light blue turns all the effects on and off. Orange turns the distortion on and off. Dark blue turns the modulation on and off. Green turns the delay on and off. And then this kind of different reddish orangish, the kind of other reddish orangish tone turns the reverb on and off. So whatever you assign to that will go to pedal A. And then B has pretty much the same stuff, except in that case, white gets you to the previous preset, right? So if it's on white and you push it, you'll go to whatever your previous preset was. If it is on red, tap tempo, etc., etc., etc. I will show you the color-coded chart. It's all pretty simple. And again, this is all super useful depending upon how you've got it set up and what you want to do with it. Okay, so now we are looking at the volume pedal. It is a volume pedal. It does volume pedal stuff. You need to make sure you've got the global settings set up properly. So once again, to get to those, you push Alt, You push the amp button, and you want it to be blue. If it's white, it won't do anything. That's for the other pedals, but for the expression pedal, make sure it's in blue. Then get out of there. For some reason, it doesn't go all the way to nothing. You can see on the sine wave that it's definitely swelling the volume. So that's the volume pedal. You can use any expression pedal apparently, and it's got 2 rings on it. So yeah, that's how that works. Okay, so now we are going to take a look at the looper, and we're going to look at programming the external foot switch and how that will work or interact with the looper. So we've kind of talked about this a little bit before. The universal settings seem complicated, but once you get to know them, they're pretty simple. I'm now working with the Sonic Cake pedal. It's got 2 buttons, a button A and a button B. They are FS3 and FS4 when you look at the manual. The first thing you want to do, go to global settings, make sure chime, also known as slot 3, is white. It's blue for the volume pedal, white for the foot switches. And that's for the single button and the 2 button, okay? And then we want to go to heavy, which I believe is slot 6. And I'm going to put it to distortion, which is orange. And slot 7, I'm going to put it to dark blue, which is modulation. This will allow me to turn the modulation on and off and the distortion on and off while I'm using, under any circumstances, including using the looper. So, distortion, modulation. You can move the tap tempo to one of these 2 buttons. However, you cannot turn the looper. Okay, and we're going to go into the looper right now. This is the looper button, and it's got to be the looper button. And also, once you go into looper mode, you no longer have the option. You don't get delay anymore. No more delay once you're using the looper. So let me show you why I think if you're using the built-in looper, your best bet is to set these to whichever parameters you change the most. I turn on and off modulation and distortion the most. I tend to leave my delay and reverb alone. That's not everybody's deal, but it doesn't matter because you can have A and B be for your delay and your reverb. You can have A and B be for your distortion and your delay. Whatever trips your trigger. You can also have it be tap tempo, and you can have this button be turn on modulation, turn off modulation, whatever works for you. Okay? I'm just going to show you this setup. We're not going to go through everything, but here's how this works with the looper. I said, you can reassign most of these buttons to do all sorts of cool things. One thing you can't do is have it so that this will be preset up and this will be preset down. You can do it with these two, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. But like I said, this has to be the looper. That's your only choice on that particular button. So if you don't want it to be the looper, you're out of luck. But if you want more looper options, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. So now we're going to take a look at using an external looper. It is not terribly complicated, but we do need to use another amp with an effects loop to make it work, because if you put the looper in front of the Pod Express, every time you change a parameter on the Pod Express, it will change it for everything that was recorded on the looper, and that's not fun. That's not what you want. So what I've done is I'm running I've got some guitar pedals here, and we will get to those in a minute. But the guitar is going into the pedals. The pedals are going into the front of the Pod Express, and then the Pod Express is going out to the looper, and then the looper is going into the effects loop in of the Joyo band amp, and that way we're going around the preamp so the sounds aren't being distorted, and then that is running into a 1x12 Fender cabinet, and I've got that mic'd. What I've done is I programmed the presets to hopefully be of similar volume and similar gain, and then, like for me, when I learned how to use loops and when I learned how to play, if you wanted to change your sound, you turned on a pedal, you turned off a pedal, right? You switch your pickups. And you can still do all of those things with the Pod Express and with modeling amps in general, but you can look at the preset as each being like not just a new pedal, but a whole new rig. So you can dial in different sounds for each preset and then use the A-B switch to go in between each of those presets that you've loaded with each sound that you like, right? So for this one, and I still have the on functioning as a distortion on-off, right? And as I mentioned, with each preset, you can change the tap tempo, you can change what modulation is in each, if any, what reverb, what delay, all of those things that are in each preset. Now, I'm not pretending these are the ideal presets, but so you can get your head around how this works, I'm just going to run you through a couple of these. Okay, so this is my clean. This is my bass. This is what I'm going to do the rhythm part on. And then if I want some distortion on that, I think that's just a little boost, right? So we can do layer 1 with that, but then we'll go to the next one. Oops. And I've got that for the chime amp. I'm not crazy about that time for tap tempo. I'm going to save that because I changed something, and I'm going to put a little bit of chorus on it. So now I'm going to save that. So now, right, if I go back to where I was, the tap tempo is still a little bit off. There we go. And again, every time you change a parameter, if that's what you like, you got to save it. So we'll start here, and we'll go here, and we'll go here. You can put whatever you want in each of these slots, and you've got a whole bunch of options for what can go in them. And again, that can be a distortion, that can be a delay, that can be a modulation, it can be whatever you want. But let's now build a loop using those different presets. Okay, now you have another option here that I'm going to go over really quickly. Let's say you have some pedals that you love and you don't want to get rid of them and you want to use them with the Pod Express. Just put them in the front like you would do with anything else. I'm going to go back to kind of a clean. All right, so to sum it up, use presets like they're pedals. Think of them as like you're building a pedal, and then when you want to switch tones, just switch to the whole preset. Now, obviously, you're going to have to keep track of what is where on the color wheel, but I think with a little practice, that should be pretty straightforward. If you don't want to do it that way, you can just pick an amp you like, put your pedals in front of it that you like, or pick an amp you like, and then put the effects within the pedal, within the pod that you like in front of it. Do it that way. You can use the onboard looper if you want to. If that's not sophisticated enough for you, just use it. You put it in the loop of an amp, which also, if you want to put this in front of your existing amp, excuse me, maybe you want to use it in a live context, and you want to get the most line 6 express sound without coloring the flavor of your tone, again, just go into the effects loop and you're good to go. All right, if you have questions, I will do my best. I hope I covered this portion of this pedal. There's still a long way to go, but it's a pretty amazing pedal, and I'm having a good time kind of picking it apart, and I genuinely enjoy the way it sounds. All right, I'm Spencer Thomas. You're watching Learning Curve. I appreciate your time, and if you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe. All right, thanks a lot.